The last thing I wanted to briefly talk about, and I don't want to get too far into it because I have not watched enough to really comment on this stuff, but obviously the Rittenhouse trial is going on right now, and it seems pretty clear that he's going to walk, and that's disgusting. I think I covered a couple weeks ago that the judge had essentially decided that you cannot call the people he killed victims because that's too loaded a term. Now, I actually agree with that if it's in a vacuum. It's actually a progressive position to say if a defendant is claiming self-defense, you shouldn't call the dead person victim because that's a loaded term. But what the judge did that's entirely hypocritical and biased and clearly favors Rittenhouse is he allowed Rittenhouse's attorney to call them looters and rioters. And I think arsonist too was part of one of the terms. So that's not loaded. Everything that the judge has done, and by the way, this is not my opinion. I am not a lawyer. I've seen a number of lawyers talk about this. The judge has at every single step favored Kyle Rittenhouse, and made it easier for Rittenhouse's attorneys to make their case. The judge has tried to disable the prosecution from making their case. I saw one legal correspondent on MSNBC said that it's almost like the judge doesn't want the prosecutors to be able to make the case they're making. It's almost like he's trying to get them to make a different case, which obviously is grossly inappropriate. And it's another indication of how our legal system actually operates, right? So there's all these, like, we make these legal arguments in the abstract in a way that, like, in any given individual decision, you can kind of make a case either way. But when every decision leans one way or the other, and then you just justify each one with some sort of abstract argument, what you get is a result that's not actually fair. That's not actually about getting to the truth. It's about maintaining the status quo, supporting the powerful, right? And continuing to oppress anybody who might be a threat to the powerful. That's ultimately what our legal system does. And, you know, it's a rejection of this whole formalism idea that the law is applied equally no matter what, right? That it's bullshit. We all know it's bullshit. If I and a black teenager from the ghetto commit the same crime, exact same details, at every single step, I will have a better time in the legal system. At every step, I am less likely to be arrested for it, right? First of all, I'm also less likely to be beaten up or killed for it by police. And then once I've been arrested, I'm less likely to be charged. I'm more likely to cut a deal. And then if it goes to trial, I'm less likely to be convicted. And then once I'm convicted, I'm less likely to have a long sentence. I'm going to get a more lenient sentence, more likely than not, right? And then once I'm in the system, once I'm in jail, I'm more likely to get my appeals granted or to get out early on good behavior or whatever it might be. At every single step. And then afterwards, I'm more likely to get it expunged. I'm more likely to be able to get housing and a job. Okay. So at every single step, you can make these abstract legal arguments in any case that could go either way. But they always end up favoring, at least on a broad scale, the powerful and you know, the white community, the wealthy, etc. And Rittenhouse is obviously a clear example of this. So just you guys take the legal jargon out of it to all the conservatives that want to, like, technically blah, blah, blah. The guy brought an assault rifle across state lines to a place where he knew there was going to be conflict, and then he shot someone, and then he tried to claim self-defense after he was the aggressor. Give me a break. With, like, if anybody thinks that is a reasonable claim of self-defense, give me a break. It's like the cops who killed Breonna Taylor trying to claim self-defense after the boyfriend fired at him. That's what it would be like. Utter insanity, right? What they do, they try to start the story at the place that's convenient for them. If I'm aggressive to somebody else, like if I go punch somebody and then they punch me back, I can just start the story after I threw the first punch and say, well, no, they hit me, so now I got to beat them up. It's self-defense, man. It's self-defense. That's what they're doing here. That's what Rittenhouse's argument is. And I don't know how many of you saw the exchange, but when he was on the stand, he was asked about this. He basically, his excuse immediately after he fired, he turned to the crowd and he said, I was scared he had a gun. Well, then why weren't you shot when you got there, Kyle? You were carrying around a fucking assault rifle. If you think that person having a gun is reason enough to be scared for your life, then everybody around you should have feared you. You see how redundant this becomes, how it's a cycle. It becomes a infinitely expanding tautology of fucking legal abstract arguments, right? So if you just start the story from the place that's most convenient for you, you can make any argument you want. And that's what appears to be happening in the Rittenhouse trial. I am terrified by what kind of precedent might be set here. Terrified. If you can basically show up somewhere, fire a shot, and then claim self-defense if anyone tries to fight back, that's basically just legalizing homicide and insane. So we will continue to cover the Rittenhouse trial. I would really like to have a legal expert on at the end of it to discuss it, because as I said, I'm not a lawyer and I have not been able to watch the entire trial. But this is obviously a landmark case. It's obviously a very important case that has potential to set all sorts of precedents and impact findings going forward and behavior going forward. So anyhow, that is the